Hi everyone, and welcome to the Carriageworks Masterclass. We are here in the state-of-the-art Smeg kitchen, and I'm your host, Krystal Hart. Now, I've had the privilege of working in hospitality for 14 years, which is so much longer than I'd like to admit. But in that time, I've had the opportunity of traveling the world, judging cocktail competitions. So when I say today we're in no better hands than with Mr. Evan Stroeve, none better. And he's going to help us delve into the wonderful world of all things bitter. Now, Evan is our Australian world-class champion. He's ranked 3rd globally, which is incredible, Ev. And he's the operations manager over at RE. Now, RE is a sustainable cocktail bar. So Ev, would love to know, what do you have in for us today?
We are taking a deep dive into bitter. So bitter, Krystal, is of course one of the 5 basic tastes, alongside sweet, sour, umami and salty.
So Ev, you've been saying bitter. What foods involve bitterness? Can you give us some examples?
A lot of the things that we would often find inseparable from daily life.
Yeah.
Things like coffee, red meats, red wine, orange wine, tea, chocolate, all the things that we love the most rely on bitterness and wouldn't be what they are without bitterness.
How come often when we're talking about bitterness in that sense, we're only using a little bit of it?
Yes, yeah, bitterness, I often describe to people as the bartender's kind of salt and pepper.
I love that.
Yeah, by itself, all of these ingredients can be really kind of overwhelming and quite powerful. But when used in smaller proportions, they're kind of the glue that binds cocktails and a lot of dishes together. So a bit of a bridge between sweet, between sour, umami. Bitterness kind of brings everything together.
What are the drinks that we're whipping up today?
So we've got 3 drinks for everyone at home today. Each of them kind of represents a different stage in the dining experience. So we've got a lighter, more vibrant Summer Americano to get started. Moving into a batched Negroni called the Party Negroni. That the idea being you can prepare this for when you have guests over at your house. And we're going to finish off with a cocktail called The Obligatory, which uses quite a bit of coffee and is, in my opinion, the perfect dessert cocktail.
Ev, they all sound incredible. All right, let's get started.
Let's do it.
Okay, Ev, so what's the first cocktail?
So the first cocktail we're going to be creating for you guys at home is called the Summer Americano.
Ooh.
Many of you might have tried a classic Americano before, which is a mix of Campari, sweet vermouth and soda water. Now this drink is based on a really old school cocktail called a Milano Torino, which is just by itself Campari and vermouth. Obviously that's quite bitter, it's quite intense and strong. Now the story goes that to kind of dilute that flavour for the American guests, the Italians would often host, a little bit of soda water was added, thus the Americano came to be. Now my variation today kind of relies on beautiful fresh summer produce like peaches and apricot, fresh citrus to kind of brighten the occasion. But the whole idea behind the Americano is that it's an introductory cocktail for people who might not have had a lot of bitter drinks before. It leverages that beautiful bitterness of the Campari and vermouth against vibrancy, fruitiness, sweetness, acidity. You've got everything in this drink, and it's a good introduction into the bitter category.
Awesome. All right, talk us through your cocktail. What's in it?
Absolutely. So the first hero ingredient is Campari, as well as a rosé vermouth, which has been infused with yellow peach, as well as fresh apricot, both direct from the Carriageworks Farmers Markets.
Awesome.
A little bit of lemon balm,
Great.
anise myrtle, and black cardamom, also from the Carriageworks Farmers Markets. A little bit of Lisbon lemon juice, just for that really kind of vibrant acidity. Now these are the same lemons that are used to make the incredible limoncello from Demoiselle Distillery here in New South Wales. I think we're ready to get into it.
All right, let's do it.
Let's do it. So the first ingredient that we're going to create ourselves is a bit of a summer wine. We're using rosé vermouth as the base. Now it's a little bit lighter than a traditional sweet vermouth. It's going to play really nicely off beautiful summer fruits like peach and apricot. And we're going to add a bit more of a pronounced herb and spice profile through the use of lemon balm, anise myrtle, and smoky cardamom, black cardamom. We're also going to add a little bit of citrus, a little bit of Campari, but this is what we're going to start working with.
Great.
Summer wine.
Done. Summer wine.
Let's do it. We're going to start, Krystal, just by chopping up some fresh peach and fresh apricot.
Perfect.
Let's do it. We're going to, so for every kind of half bottle of vermouth, we're going to go with 2 peaches, 2 whole peaches, and 2 whole apricots. So it's going to develop a nice kind of balanced profile.
Yeah, great.
We're going to cook everything over a really low heat because we don't want to cook off too much alcohol.
Yep.
Of course, many of you at home may have cooked with wine before and you want to kind of bring it to a simmer. The reason for doing that is because you're cooking off a lot of the alcohol. You're trying to cook off all the alcohol. Here we're trying to do the opposite. We're trying to keep it so we can use it.
Great, so this is kind of more of an infusion, right?
More of an infusion, a slow, delicate heat, only over the course of maybe half an hour to an hour, just to incorporate all of those flavours.
Great.
Nice one. Let's do it.
Now, Ev, as you're cutting this up, are you wanting to like cut them into as small a piece as possible, or the bigger the better? What's the vibe?
I think that, so the mentality behind this is that rather than just chopping some big chunks like this and throwing it,
whacking it in,
it into the pan, you want to dice them quite finely, just to maximise the surface area.
Sure. Okay.
The more surface area you have, the more interaction between the fruit and the vermouth, and the more flavour you're going to end up with.
Sure. And you're also leaving the skins on, which is kind of cool.
Yeah, absolutely. Fruit skins are the source of so much tannin, so much flavour, so much kind of like grip.
Yeah.
And we want all of that in the drink.
Great.
We're here for bitterness today.
Now, Evan, why are we doing peaches and apricots?
So apricots tend to lend a bit more texture, a bit more mouthfeel. They're a little bit more creamy, I guess.
Cool.
Whereas peach has that quintessential balance between sugar and acid. We're going to drop these straight into the pan.
Okay.
Brilliant, brilliant, brilliant. Now we're going to do the same thing with the apricot.
Okay, perfect.
It's a little bit smaller. It's a little bit easier to handle with a little paring knife.
So you're scoring the centre of it?
Yeah.
Okay.
Straight around the centre.
Yep.
Twist.
Oh, I like that little.
Yeah, little tricks. Tricks of the trade.
Fab.
Straight along again.
Oh, you can smell it. It smells incredible.
Yeah. All right, so we've added our beautiful fresh summer stone fruit.
Yep.
We're also going to add some nice herbs and spices.
Okay.
We're going to use anise myrtle, lemon balm, and smoky black cardamom. Now, these are quite potent, and a little bit goes a long way, so we want to make sure we're measuring for each of them. We're going to start with lemon balm. So lemon balm, for me, has a beautiful kind of bright citrus aroma that is paired almost with a mentholy kind of minty aroma. We're going to add about 15 grams. So that's going to be our main botanical. Got a little bit more here. All of these are available at the Carriageworks Market on a Saturday.
Okay.
However, if you feel like experimenting, get into that spice cabinet at home and play around.
Okay.
The world's your oyster. These are the herbs and botanicals I've chosen.
Sure.
But you might have something different at home.
Yep.
And next is anise myrtle. We're only going to use 5 of this because it is quite pungent.
And Ev, so you're measuring this on a scale, that's correct?
Yeah, so I tend to measure all of my herbs and spices just because they are quite pungent, quite potent, and it just lends itself to consistency a little bit more.
Great.
So we've got our anise myrtle and we've got our lemon balm in there. What we're going to do with the black cardamom is, we're going to renegade it. With the back of the spoon, obviously using a pestle and mortar would probably be the best way to go with this, but they actually pry themselves open quite easily. So taking the back of a spoon over the top, you can hear it crush.
Yep.
Now we only need 2 pods for this.
Okay.
So you open it up and you see these little, little pods on the inside. That's what we're going to be using.
Great.
So you want to open that up just so that they can infuse into the liquid.
Sure.
It seems like there's a lot of kind of produce in the pan already, but we are going to use half a bottle of vermouth, and we're going to keep that at a low temperature.
Okay.
Really low temperature, just so we're not cooking off any of the alcohol, and we're going to just leave it there for half an hour, stirring it occasionally to just incorporate the ingredients. But most of the work is done for us by just incorporating some heat.
Amazing.
Cool. So we're going to use a rosé vermouth, a little drier, a little lighter than your classic sweet vermouth that you'd find in an Americano. But I also get a lot of peach notes from this. I get a lot of kind of stone fruit notes, so I think it's going to play really well with the summer produce that we've got.
Love that.
Go half a bottle. Thereabouts. If we zoom in, you can just see the top of the liquid is starting to kind of cover the majority of the produce, and that's what we're looking for, just so we know that most of it is interacting. There's lots of surface area there. As long as you can see the liquid, it's submerged, we're onto a winner. Okay, cool. So everything's in the pan. We've got it set to quite a low heat. That's enough heat to generate the interaction of those flavours without cooking off any of the precious alcohol that we need to make our cocktail with. And we just want to stir it around, move it around a little bit, get all of those herbs kind of submerged. So we do want to kind of keep this moving a little bit over the next half an hour, but you know, you can just set your timer for half an hour and come back to it. Right. And then that's going to be ready, and that's going to kind of make up the core hero ingredient of our Summer Americano.
Delicious.
Yeah. All right, Krystal, I think we're just about ready on this one.
Yep.
That's been there infusing for about half an hour. All right, if you want to hold that for me.
Yeah.
Just slowly pour it through. Excellent. You can see there's a little bit of solid and sediment in there. I think it adds character. I wouldn't worry too much. Now with the leftover solids, we want to compost that. It's all organic material.
Okay.
We're going to build 2 Summer Americanos directly into the cocktail shaker.
Yep.
Now I'm going to show the viewers at home how to correctly do that, how to close the shaker, how to open it efficiently. Let's get into it. We're going to start with Campari.
Great. There we are.
This little tool is called a jigger. It's what we use behind the bar every day. It allows us to measure ingredients accurately. Don't stress if you're at home and you don't have one of these. You can use a measuring glass, or you can use tablespoons or teaspoons, whatever you've got available.
Great. So it's all kind of about consistency, right? And measurements.
Exactly. So we are going to measure 35 mils of Campari per drink. We're making 2 drinks, so 70 mils.
Great. And so you're two cocktails in the one shaker.
Yep. You don't want to do any more than that because you'll run out of space.
Yep.
But yeah, two cocktails. So that's our one half of our base. The other half of our base is obviously the summer fruit one that we just made. I've got one already prepared in the freezer that's cold. I'm going to grab that now.
Awesome. So once you've strained everything off, ideally, you know, we should try and empty that into a bottle and pop it in the fridge, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
Fortified wines they're lower in alcohol, so they tend to oxidize and eventually go off like any red wine or white wine would.
Okay.
It'll take them a little bit longer, but if you keep them in the fridge, you can extend their shelf life by a little bit.
Great.
Awesome. Same measurement of summer wine. We're going to go 35 mils per drink, so 70 in total.
Yep, so equal parts of our summer wine and our Campari.
Exactly.
Easy.
What we want now is a little bit of fresh lemon juice, just to add a really nice acid line through the middle of the drink. This is a Lisbon lemon sourced from Prickle Hill Produce at Carriageworks Market, and it's also the exact same lemon that is used to make this limoncello, which we're also going to use today. So I'm going to take a little bit of the skin off, because we're going to use that at the end once we've finished making the drink. And for this, we don't need much. We only need 10 mils of fresh juice per cocktail. Now to juice that, we're going to use the Smeg juicer, which I believe you just go like this. Oh, that's fun. Awesome.
Oh, stop it.
Fresh lemon juice. Any day of the week. Cool. It's always been kind of drummed into me ever since I was a young bartender that fresh citrus is always best.
Yep.
It will begin to oxidize as soon as you juice it, and just tasting day-old juice versus fresh juice side by side is a massive testimony to that. So when you're at home, fresh juice always. So 10 mils per drink, we're going to a total of 20.
Yep.
Now the final ingredient is a beautiful limoncello from the Demoiselle Distillery based here in New South Wales. As I said, using the Lisbon lemons and also Meyer lemons, which are a little bit sweeter.
Yeah.
A beautiful, fragrant balance between being sweet, being sour, that classic kind of cocktail balance.
Great.
We're going to go 5 mils, so 10 total.
Great.
So if you're making a drink that didn't have soda or tonic water, like a margarita or a daiquiri, you'd want to add a little bit more ice, which is going to contribute a little bit more dilution.
Sure.
But for this one, we're just going to go a couple of cubes,
Great.
like that. Now, you want to close the cocktail shaker so that there is a flat edge. If you were to imagine this is a clock face at 6 o'clock, so down the bottom.
Great.
And at 12 o'clock, you've got this beveled edge.
Awesome. And Ev, I noticed you built the cocktail in the base, or like the largest component of the set. Is that something we always want to do?
Generally, yeah. We build in the shaker to kind of mix the ingredients properly.
Yeah.
And then if you're making 2 drinks, you're often going to add a lot of ice, hence why you make it in the bigger.
Love that.
Bigger end.
Great.
Cool. So we're going to shake.
Shake it up.
You kind of want to work in a circular motion.
Sure.
And for people at home, don't worry, everyone makes a weird face when they shake drinks. Everyone.
Let's see it.
Awkward laugh. So you can see as you shake, you begin to get this kind of beautiful chilled exterior. It means you're doing the right thing. Can I have a dig?
Yeah, sure.
Go for it. While Krystal's doing that, I'm going to grab the soda water that we're going to use for the cocktails, as well as the frozen glassware. Beautiful frozen glassware.
Oh,
so, yeah, I think there's a really romantic moment when you're drinking a cocktail and it comes from this blisteringly cold glass.
Oh, yeah.
There's a romantic element to it. So to open the shaker, considering it's a clock face, you want to strike it at 3 o'clock. You'll hear the crack, which means the drink the shaker is open.
Great.
And we're going to just pour these straight in. We've got 2 today, Krystal. One for me, one for you.
Oh, perfect. The colour's great, isn't it?
Yeah. So, if I was to write this recipe, I'd add or aim for about 100 mils of soda water on top.
Yep.
Some people like their drink a little punchier.
Yep.
Some people like their drink a little more diluted. So this is really a personal preference. Oh, nearly. We're just gonna dilute it out like that, and you get this beautiful kind of rose colour. Imagine sitting outside Continental on Australia Street in Newtown, hold one of these in your hand, watching people walk past with their dogs.
Perfect.
Excellent. So while Krystal does that, I'm going to prepare some garnishes. We're going to use the lemon peel that we just peeled. That's going to provide a really kind of aromatic burst at the start of the drinking experience. And we're also going to use a fresh wedge of blood orange. I think that, that kind of crimson streak through the middle of the drink is going to be really striking and really beautiful. Awesome. So the Americano traditionally is served in a highball or Collins glass. I like using a wine glass. It's a little bit fancy, it's a little bit fun.
Great.
But also the edges of the wine glass kind of taper in, which concentrate all the beautiful citrus aromas of the cocktail. And we're just gonna express the oils of the lemon peel over the top. So I also like to kind of express some of the essential oils on the stem of the glass. That way when you pick it up, that beautiful, vibrant aroma just kind of stays with you for a little bit.
Yeah, love that.
Excellent. Now that is the Summer Americano. That is ready, but there is no such thing as an aperitif without some kind of snack, some kind of food. So we have the kind of quintessential cheese and meat charcuterie board from our good friend Luke Powell at LP's Quality Meats. He's going to be covering the section on the salt flavour, and some lovely cheeses as well. So you've got a effervescent, vibrant cocktail. It's going to cut through the salt and the fat of the cheese and meat. Cheers.
Cheers. Yeah.
Cheers, guys. The beautiful thing about the Americano is that up front, you get a lot of that kind of fruity sweetness. And then in the middle, you get that acid, which kind of balances back the sweetness. And then right at the end, you get that punch of bitterness.
Love that.
What do you think?
I think it's sensational. And you know, when you were talking about that bitterness, is that why we're kind of pairing with these kind of, you know, delicious cured meats and cheeses, because they are a bit richer?
They are a little bit richer.
Awesome.
That bitterness and that acidity is going to kind of cut through the heart of that fat and that salt. At the same time, you know, in aperitif culture, bitter flavors stimulate the appetite, making it the perfect kind of drink for the start of a meal.
Oh, perfect.
Yeah.
All right.
I could have a few of those, just quietly.
Yeah, you and I both. All right, let's get into the second serve.
Move on to the next one. Let's do it.
All right, Ev, so our second cocktail, what are we whipping up?
So the cocktail we're going to create today is called the Party Negroni. We experienced a pretty extended lockdown last year, which was quite exhausting. But I think one of the highlights, for me at least, was getting to experience the amazing wealth of creative, intelligent bottled cocktails. Yeah. Okay, so that's what we're going to do today. We're going to piece together a little twist on a Negroni that you can prep the night before. Yep. One that is also a little bit waste conscious, using things that would often just get thrown in the bin, but still have a lot of flavour. And we're gonna batch that all together using a bit of tea for dilution. But yeah, the classic Negroni is like an iconic cocktail and part of the stable of every bartender I know. So today we're gonna use the classic hero spirit, which is gin. This one comes from the Demoiselle Distillery, juniper heavy, which is the classic botanical in gin, as well as lemon myrtle, cinnamon myrtle, and pepperberry, which are three kind of unique and brilliant native botanicals. The next ingredient is the classic sweet vermouth. Rather than just kind of using it by itself, we're going to incorporate a little bit of fresh mango skin. A lot of the time, as you're probably aware at home, I'm as guilty of this as many people. We just throw the skin out. Sure, yeah. But there's so much flavour still attached to it, and this is something we try to champion every day down at my bar RE. Yep. So we're going to infuse that into the vermouth. Great. Then instead of using Campari, which may seem sacrilegious in a Negroni, we're going to use the slightly lighter, a little bit kind of less potent, less bitter sibling, which is Aperol. On top of that, rather than stirring the Negroni to order as you'd get it in a bar, we're going to have to add a little bit of dilution because it is a bottled cocktail. You're getting this ready for the next day. So touching on that bitterness topic that we've kind of dipped our toe into already, we're using Earl Grey tea and a really nice black bold tea. So you're going to get beautiful notes of bergamot. Oh yeah, it's really citrusy and floral. But we're actually going to oversteep that tea. So we're not making it to drink by itself. Okay. We're oversteeping it to extract all of that tannin and bitterness, which is just going to kind of balance out and strike a chord through the middle of our Negroni. Awesome. Love that. Last ingredient. We don't need a lot of it because it is pretty intense, is a smoked absinthe, again from Demoiselle. Yep. It's going to provide some vegetal kind of herbal notes that'll again cut through the middle. Just a little gesture of that. We don't want too much. Perfect. Cool. So we're going to whip up the mango skin vermouth. Are you ready? Let's do it. Let's do it. All right, I think we're ready. We're going to infuse the sweet vermouth with mango skin. Now, this is a little techers I like to use at home if I'm looking to just get the flesh of the mango.
Okay.
I'll cut off a big cheek, grab maybe a glass, or if you've got a cocktail shaker, great, and you literally dig the flesh away from the skin. Now, with that, you can make a salsa, you can make a vetita, you can make whatever you like. You can make some mango daiquiris during summer, great idea. But what we're interested in today is the skin that you would kind of classically throw away.
Yeah.
Look at that, still got heaps of flavour on it, heaps of flesh.
Great.
So we're just going to, again, maximise surface area. You can be pretty loose with this. Bang, and get that ready.
Perfect. It's fabulous that we're actually using part of the mango that often gets thrown out.
Yeah.
Like, honestly, I never would have thought of using something like this to create flavour.
Absolutely, and we, even things like mandarin during winter, the best part of experiencing a mandarin is that initial moment when you open it up.
Yeah.
And that skin like bursts with all that aroma. That's what we often use behind the bar instead of the flesh itself.
Sure.
Cool. So we're going to do that for, do you want to grab that other mango?
Yep.
We want to try and use as much as possible here. We're just going to finish slicing the skin up here.
Great.
Aim for about two mangoes or two mango skins per bottle of vermouth.
Yep.
We're going to cook it on low. Cook it on low. This time just for a little bit longer.
Yep.
For about an hour.
Oh, okay.
And we're going to use the full bottle.
Great. So maybe this is like a process or a step that you can start when you're, preparing whatever dish that you want this cocktail to accompany, right?
Exactly, yeah. You can do this at the same time. If you prepare, let's use the mango salsa as an example. If you do this the day before, you don't necessarily even have to cook it. This is a little bit more time efficient. If you're happy just leaving it in the fridge to infuse overnight,
great.
Just as good. So we're going to leave that. We're going to leave that for 1 hour. I'm going to cover it just so we don't get too much evaporation.
Great.
Low heat, that's that slow kind of connection of flavour. And then we're going to strain that off at the end and batch the entire drink together. While we do that, we're going to brew a tea.
Great.
It's not going to be the kind of traditional way you'd brew a tea. It's going to be a really intense concentration of tannin, which is the source of tea's bitterness.
Okay.
If you were to make this for mum or grandma,
Yep.
they'd probably throw it back at you.
Okay.
But overbrewed tea is a really kind of powerful tool in drink creation because it just adds another layer of bitterness, another type of bitterness. Partner that with Earl Grey's super heavy bergamot profile.
Yep.
And the pungency and strength of the black tea. And we're gonna have a pretty powerful brew.
Great.
So we're gonna go primarily Earl Grey. Per litre, we're going to aim for about 15 to 20 grams, which is way more than you'd use for an average cup of tea. It'll probably keep you up well past MasterChef.
Sure.
And then 5 grams of the black tea.
So why are you working with a couple of teas?
Just to kind of offset one another. So the black tea kind of gets us over the line in terms of the bitterness, whereas the Earl Grey kind of introduces a real citrusy element.
Great.
Which pairs really well with mango, bergamot, bergamot, Aperol. It all blends together really, really well.
Great.
All right, so we've got the Smeg kettle. We're gonna add 1 litre of water.
And you're weighing this, or are you going off the measurements?
I'm going off the measurement on the side, but you can weigh it. Okay. So 1 ml of water is exactly the same as 1 gram.
Easy.
So it's all the same.
Now you said that we're wanting to overbrew this.
Yep.
What does an overbrewed tea look like? Like how long should we leave this to
I'm gonna leave this for 10 minutes. Yeah, so it's a big brew. Normally when you make a cup of tea, maybe a couple of minutes at home. So Krystal, we've gone off, we've done some gardening, we've completely forgotten about our cup of tea. But it's ready. It's been there for about 10 minutes, which means it's overbrewed. All those really intense tannins have been extracted. We're getting a really nice bergamot aroma from that as well.
Oh yeah, that's lovely.
Yeah. So we're just going to strain that off. And as I said with the last recipe in the Americano, the two most important parts of creating drinks is temperature.
Yep.
Whether you're making a really like a hot toddy or something, or a classically cold drink, temperature is very important, and dilution. So normally you'd stir a drink or you'd shake it. That would add dilution. For this, we're not going to do either. We're going to bottle and use tea as our dilution.
And it's also, you know, you were talking about tannin earlier when we were discussing ingredients that have bitterness.
Yep.
This is also adding bitterness to some extent, right?
Heaps and heaps of tannin.
Cool.
So Aperol is a little bit lighter than Campari, a little more fruit forward.
Okay.
That's going to work with the mango. But there is no Negroni without bitterness.
Sure.
So we need to kind of incorporate that somehow, hence the tea.
Love it.
Awesome. Cool. We're gonna pop that in the fridge just to get it cold. Krystal, I think we're just about ready with the mango skin wine.
Great.
That's been an hour, so you're gonna have lots of kind of fruit notes from this. We're just gonna strain it off. As we kind of said before, it doesn't matter if there's a little bit of solids in here. Extra flavour.
Yeah, great.
Fantastic. Cool. So we've got our tea that we've brewed. We've got our mango skin wine, and we've got our local gin and Aperol and a little bit of vermouth. So we are ready to rock and roll to batch this drink. Now the beauty of the Negroni, the classic Negroni, is that it's an equal parts cocktail, meaning 30 mils of gin, 30 mils Campari,
Great.
30 mils sweet vermouth. I'm not going to mess with that. I'm going to keep it equal parts. So gin, Aperol, mango skin wine, and tea in equal amounts.
Yep.
But the beauty of the Negroni is also that it's more than the sum of its parts, right?
Yeah.
It's there's a lot going on. You've got fruit, you've got acidity, you've got tannin, you've got structure from the gin. It's all there. And let's get into it, okay? Beginning with our non-alcoholic ingredients, just so we can start again if we mess up.
Yeah.
We're going to go 250 mils of each ingredient to make a litre with a little bit of absinthe kind of rinsed on top.
Okay.
You can also do this the night before and pull it out cold the next day.
Okay.
When you're ready.
Yeah. And that's what I was going to ask. Considering we're batching, does temperature make much of a difference in this kind of serve, or?
So long as you get it nice and cold before you're ready to drink it, not
Okay.
at all. Batching's okay.
Sure.
With a little bit of heat. Amazing. Let's go with the gin. Let's go with the Aperol. Sorry, let's work our way up. Aperol a little bit lower in alcohol than Campari, a little bit less bitterness. Utilising the gentian root. A little bit lighter. A little bit of rhubarb as well is the secret to this one. Now the gin, juniper heavy, nice and textural. It's gonna provide that kind of botanical backbone of the drink. Okay, so we've got all three ingredients. Do you have any questions so far about the process?
Yeah, I just wanted to ask a little bit about the dilution. Obviously, the tea's going to add bitterness, but it also is kind of adding our water component.
Yep.
How much should we add when we're looking to batch for this Negroni?
Yeah, when you're looking to kind of batch and bottle
Yeah.
drinks, when you think about how a drink's made behind the bar, it's either shaken quite aggressively or it's stirred and it's silky smooth. Either way, the water content rises from 0 added water to about 25% by volume.
Okay.
25 to 30% by volume. So that's essentially what we're doing here. We're adding a quarter, or one fourth of a part of water or tea in this case.
Okay. So
Awesome.
if we were doing something like a martini, would we still add pretty much the same amount?
I'd go a little bit more.
Oh, you would?
Yeah, a little bit more. A little bit less with the Negroni because it's going to be sitting on ice.
Okay.
So you're going to pick up some temperature and dilution from the rock of ice that you're going to be pouring the drink over. Whereas a martini is served straight up, it's not going to pick up any extra dilution.
Yeah, okay. Love that. Thanks,
Love
Ev.
it. Awesome. So we're going to add the mango skin wine all the way up to a litre. And that's our Well, it's essentially our party Negroni, but we need to add a smidgen, a little bit, because it's super, super powerful, of smoked absinthe from the Demoiselle distillery.
Now, absinthe can sometimes be I don't know, like a bit of an aggressive ingredient or flavour.
Yeah.
Why are you using it in this cocktail?
I find absinthe it's one of those classic ingredients that you use a little bit too much of it, it'll blow your socks off.
Cool.
You use just the right amount of it and it cuts directly through the heart. It's such an iconic flavour that just a couple of dashes or a sprinkle or a bar spoon here and there just completes that flavour profile of the drink.
That's awesome. And so how much did you use just in this batch?
5 mils per litre.
In the whole litre?
In the whole litre, and you're going to be able to taste it, trust me.
Awesome. Okay,
Awesome.
can't wait.
So what I would do now, I'd get that chilled in the fridge, wait for your guests to arrive, maybe 45 minutes before they arrive, pop it in the freezer just to get it as cold as possible.
Yep.
And then you're ready to go. Get some glassware in the freezer as well. I've actually already prepared one, so I'm going to get that out now.
Love it. Everything about this recipe definitely kind of sounds like a lazy man cocktail, which I'm very much into.
There's no fancy technique or equipment when it comes to making this for your guests.
Great.
I've got some beautiful big hunks of ice, which is
Yep.
going to add a little bit of dilution, but they're going to do it slowly.
Okay.
And the party Negroni, ready
Great.
to go for all your guests.
And the colour's so gorgeous. It's
Yeah.
almost like a burnt orange.
Yeah, such a vivid colour. Nice one. Excellent. I think with such a like a clean cocktail and such an iconic cocktail, less is more when it comes to the garnish.
Sure.
Maybe something with a little bit of citrus zest.
Okay.
But something that's kind of strikingly clean.
Yep.
Classic. Half orange. Over the top.
Amazing.
Now, the Negroni for me is not an aperitif cocktail. It's a little bit heavier.
Sure.
It's something you might consider partnering with an entree just before the mains come out.
Yep.
So what I've done is I've prepared a beetroot tartare that we make back at the bar. So we slow cook beetroot over the kind of dying coals at the end of the night in our hibachi. So that's an overnight cook.
Yep.
A bit of fresh sorrel, some capers, some beautiful acidic Davidson plum. It's going to match the notes of the party Negroni really well. So, cheers.
Cheers.
Bang.
Oh yeah.
Yeah?
Yeah, I'm into that.
Tasty?
Honestly, was a little apprehensive about the absinthe.
Yep.
I don't mind a little bit in drinks, but that's incredible.
You think we've found the balance
We
point?
found it.
Yep.
Yeah, absolutely. That was delicious, Ev. I'm really keen to see what else we can do with bitter.
All right, cool. So we've started with the aperitif.
Yep.
This is kind of the main entree vibe.
Yep.
We're going to move on to dessert. We're going to go a little bit richer and heavier. We're going to create a cocktail called the Obligatory.
All right, let's do it. All right, so we're on our third and final cocktail with bitter. What do you have for us, Ev?
So the next cocktail is called the Obligatory cocktail in reference to that obligatory end of meal digestive style of drink. So bitter flavours naturally engage the digestive system to promote healthier digestion.
Yeah.
So this cocktail uses those heavier, decadent flavours of fresh cacao, coffee. It's a little bit richer, it's a little more dense. Let's get into it,
Great.
shall we?
Yeah, perfect.
So our first ingredient is going to be a dark aged local rum called Baker's from the Demoiselle distillery. We're also using a heavier, more bitter, more dense fortified vermouth called Punta Nez.
Great.
We're using a collaboration liqueur between my bar RE and Mr. Black, recycled coffee bean liqueur. Fresh cold brew using single origin. This one's a bit of a heavier roast.
Sure.
It's kind of going to feed into those heavier, darker flavours. We're also using a local honey, which we're going to turn into a syrup, as well as a little bit of Angostura bitters at the end, just to kind of round everything out.
Perfect.
Yeah, sound like a plan?
Sounds like a plan.
Awesome. All right, let's get into it. So the first hero ingredient, hero spirit, I should say, is an aged rum. Now, the effect that aging spirits in wooden barrels has is that it imparts a flavour, almost like a roundness, but it also adds tannin to the spirit, and tannin, as we know, is a source of bitterness. So we're going to just get straight into it. Each cocktail has 30 mils, so we're going to double that and go 60. Straight into our mixing tin. Now, moving along, Punta Mez translates to 1.5. So 1 point of sweet, half a point of bitter. It's a little bit richer, it's a little bit heavier on the wormwood and the gentian.
Okay, so compared to all the other vermouths we've used, this one is slightly more bitter than the other two.
This is much more suited to kind of dessert style cocktails.
Okay.
Just due to its palate weight, it's a little bit denser.
Okay. Now, are there any principles that we can adopt when looking to create cocktails that support or kind of complement desserts?
Yep, I think I err towards heavier, darker spirits.
Okay.
Having that oak profile immediately kind of gets you off to a good start. Consider sweetness next to offset some of that bitterness. So think maple syrup, think honey, think maybe brown sugar or demerara sugar, heavier profiles. And then consider your liqueurs, consider your modifiers, things like coffee liqueurs or creme de cacao. All of those flavors work really well together.
Love that, and it sounds really simple.
Yep. All this stuff you can access from your local bottle shop or the Carriageworks Market.
Perfect.
All right, the next ingredient is a coffee liqueur that is made from spent coffee grounds. So my bar RE collaborated with Mr. Black on this one.
Yep.
And essentially it involves a maceration of those old grounds, which are still packed full of flavour, only a little bit less than the fresh beans, which allows bitterness to kind of come to the forefront a little bit more. It almost drinks like an Amaro. If anyone at home has had an Amaro before, a little bit more potent on the bitterness.
Great. It's really interesting to see using so many different ingredients that has bitterness, just to see how they all blend together.
We're going to add a bit of cold brew coffee. So for this, it's essentially a 12 to 24 hour infusion of coffee into water.
Sure.
We like to use a kind of coarser ground. It's generally a little bit lower in acidity. It's a little less volatile. It's a little more smooth, which works really well when you're doing, beautiful stirred down cocktails like this one. Great.
Yeah, there's all these really nice kind of dark, rich caramel notes, almost like a little bit green and nutty.
That's all happening. So we're gonna go 10 mils per drink. This is literally my ideal end to a meal right here. This is perfect.
That's awesome. Now, what would be the difference between, the cold brew process versus something like espresso?
I've found that espresso works really well when you want a little bit more acidity.
Great.
A little more sharpness. The reason why we're using cold brew today is it's a little bit more rounded, it's a little bit softer, there's a little bit less of that acidity, which I think when working with stirred down, kind of textural, smoother drinks, works really well. Things like espresso martinis, where you're looking for, vibrant kind of, there's almost like an effervescence to it. That's when you want to be using espresso, something a little bit sharper.
Love that.
So we've got everything in there except a little bit of sweetness. All of those ingredients are bitter in one way or another. So we need a little bit of texture and a little bit of sweetness to offset that. What we've got here is a local tea tree honey.
Okay.
In its raw state is quite dense and quite kind of hard to pour. So what we do behind the bar is we just dilute it roughly by about double its weight in water, in warm water, and that's just going to make it a little more flexible to use, a little bit easier to pour. And we're literally only adding maybe 5 mils of that into the drink.
Yeah, right.
This is a really good point where I think you can play around. Like, honey is such a versatile product. You can get lavender honeys or macadamia honeys or jasmine-based honeys. And it's always a reflection of where you are and the terroir of the land around you. Honey is such a versatile ingredient.
Yeah, I love that. It's so aromatic. I can smell it right now.
Yeah. 5 mils per drink. So we're going to do 10 in total. straight into the mixing glass. So the very last ingredient is something that viewers may be familiar with at home, the Angostura bitters. This is the iconic bittering agent of all bars and bartending. You'll find this in your old-fashioned cocktails, in your Manhattan cocktails, and essentially it operates as seasoning. It is a salt and pepper for bartenders. It operates to kind of bind flavors together and just add an extra layer of nuance to the top of a drink.
Love that.
It's often quite hard to dash in with this bottle. It's quite heavy. So just for consistency, I've got a little cocktail dropper here.
Oh, great.
There you go. We're going to add about 3 drops per cocktail.
Yeah, it's a lot smaller than the regular Angostura bottle kind of nip pourer.
Absolutely. Cool, and we are ready to add ice.
Done. Now, Ev, why do we want to work with so much ice?
Okay, so essentially you want to insulate the top of the glass with ice. It's going to maintain a constant temperature of the cocktail. It's going to get it as cold as possible, as quickly as possible. And just it ensures consistency across the board.
Awesome.
So we're going to stir. This technique took me so long, but essentially you want to hold the spoon between your first and second and third fingers, and you barely even need to move your wrist. It's all in the fingers. You apparently can tell a good bartender because it doesn't make a lot of noise. I don't know.
Like that?
Apparently.
It's a great story.
Apparently so. Yeah, and just keeping that topped up with fresh ice. Oh. Excellent. As always, the frozen glassware.
Oh, that's great.
Imagine, you've just finished dessert at a really nice restaurant. You're full as a goog. The waiter comes out with a delicious coffee-based cocktail and pours it tableside. Beautiful, decadent kind of texture, like beautiful silky texture. Just the perfect bookend to a night.
Love that.
So we're going to garnish the drink with dark chocolate. It has a higher concentration of cocoa. It's been tempered, so you've got a nice crack to it. That higher concentration of cocoa, I think, balances the natural sweetness. So you've got bitter, sweet, punctuated with coffee, dark rum, oak-aged spirits.
Amazing.
It's literally got everything. This is the obligatory.
Oh, they look so good. But now, I know that we've got an amazing garnish, but you've done up a little dessert to pair, right?
I have. How could I have forgotten?
I haven't. I'm such a sweet tooth.
So this is a little dessert that we serve at the bar.
Oh,
we collaborated, essentially, when you roast coffee, the outside of the skin kind of flakes off in the roasting unit in the oven. It's called coffee chaff, and when you get it fresh, it tastes like caramel, kind of cereally.
Yum.
We collaborated with a local gelato maker to create a coffee chaff gelato, which has then been rolled in puffed buckwheat.
Oh, that is delicious.
I think there's a more pronounced bitterness with this kind of drink, but there's so much sweetness in all of those ingredients that it's offset quite well.
I'll be honest, like when you mentioned all of the different ingredients that had elements of bitter in them, I was expecting essentially something more bitter than this is, but all the layers and then the honey comes in at the end. Honestly, this is like the perfect nightcap.
Love it.
You've
Smoke show of a cocktail.
A smoke show of a cocktail, I love that. Now, Ev, you've taken us through 3 incredible drinks. Can you just tell us, in summary, like what is bitter, and how easy is it for us to use bitter in ingredients at home?
Yeah, I think the take-home message from today's demonstration is that bitterness is incredibly versatile.
Okay.
You've got the kind of pre-dinner bitter cocktails that you'd associate with, the Camparis and the Aperols of the world, the Summer Americano, things that you eat before food comes out to stimulate the appetite.
Sure.
Sun shining, almost celebratory.
Yep.
And then incorporating bitterness in other ways, using tannins from overbrewed tea in a quintessential cocktail like the Negroni, just before the mains come out or during the entrees. Super flexible. And then obviously you've got your dessert style drinks that utilize coffee, utilize heavier flavors, more textural components.
Yeah.
Bitterness is in every aspect of creating drinks, just as it is in every aspect of the dish. It brings things together. It's the glue that holds things together. And there's so many different ways to apply it. And I think that is the message that I'd like to communicate today.
Love that. I think you've absolutely done it.
Nice one.
Well, this has been incredible. Ev, thank you so much. I think we can all step away from this incredible masterclass having understood a little bit more about how to use bitterness in both food and drinks. To everyone at home, thank you so much for tuning in to our Carriageworks Masterclass on all things bitter in partnership with Smeg Australia. I'm Krystal Hart. This is the incredible Evan Stroeve. Go out there, recreate these epic cocktails.
Yes.